Hello and welcome back to TOI Auto, my friends, and today I'm going to be talking about the Ducati Hypermotard 950 RVE. Now this is a pretty unique offering by the Italian manufacturer here in India, and I've been riding around town in this for the past 4 to 5 days, and I'm going to be sharing some of my impressions about this motorcycle. Now the first thing that you might notice is that it is a pretty rad looking bike with its beak and the twin exhausts upswept right back there, and then you've got your exposed trellis frame there as well. So what is a hypermotard? So what basically Ducati has done is that they have taken a supermoto body style and ergonomics and added them to a street naked chassis. We will talk more about how it all comes together in a bit, but let's take a closer look at the design features and some of the equipment. Now the first thing that comes to notice on the front of the Ducati Hypermotard is this beak that sits right below the headlight unit that gets saber-tooth shaped DRLs. Now the headlight unit itself has a halogen bulb inside, which is a bit disappointing but not a deal breaker at all. Then you've got the Brembo brakes and the 320mm discs as well. Going forward, there is the radiator, and then you have this, a very exposed oil cooler, which can be a point of anxiousness for new owners. And then you have the exposed trellis frame here, which adds to this motorcycle's extremely well handling dynamics. Now there is a scuff mark that I can see on the engine there. It probably saw a bad day, but apart from that, you can see the exhaust piping going around the bike. There is one end which is coming out of here with the O2 sensor there, and then there is another outlet which is coming through here and going into this bread box here. After that, all of this is very difficult to understand how it's routed, but what I can tell you is that a single pipe shoots here and goes divided into two to give you these upswept mounted exhaust cans. Now here is the rear look of the Hypermotard. Even the backlight is a pretty interesting unit, as it is both integrated and separated from the body at the same time. I mean, that is how you can perceive it. Then you've got the single side swing arm, which gives you this really cool looking exposed wheel on the right side of the bike. And apart from that, let's take a look at the specs now. Now powering the Hypermotard is a 937cc Ducati Testastretta twin-cylinder engine that produces around 114 horsepower and 96 Newton meters of torque. Now the 114 horsepower are achieved at around 9000 RPM, but 80% of the 96 Nm torque is available from as low as 3000 RPM. So as you can imagine, this is a pretty wild bike, a pretty energetic, a pretty exciting bike to ride around town with all that torque surge coming in from such a low RPM level. Then there is the slipper clutch, and it even gets a quick shifter. Now going into what makes the Hypermotard different and special than, let's say, a Ducati Monster. Well, it has to be the concept itself. As you can see, there is a lot of ground clearance here, 210 mm to be exact, and there is a lot of travel on the front suspension as well. From what I could see on the spec sheet, it is at the 170 mm mark. Now what that does is it frees up a lot of potential for some interesting riding around town. You're not, and especially with Indian conditions, you are not worrying about potholes, you are not worrying about sudden huge speed breakers scratching your underbelly of the bike, and everything rough patches and stuff that you come across in the city situation on a daily basis, it tackles almost effortlessly. But then there are some differences compared to a street bike that take place when you got so much travel and ground clearance going on, such as that in low speeds the bike does tend to sink due to its longer travel on the front end. Then you have the Brembo brakes, which are pretty nice and progressive, but again at low speeds they do get a little bitey for my liking. So overall the Hypermotard looks a pretty lean and mean machine, but it still does weigh 200 kgs. And the fuel tank capacity here on offer is around 14.5 liters in the tank, and Ducati says that it consumes around 5.4 liters for every 100 kilometers. Now let's take a look at the TFT screen that Ducati is offering here in the Hypermotard. Well, as you can see, this particular motorcycle has done above 9,000 kilometers, and then you've got your gear shift indicator, your tachometer, and this host of information shows you at what setting levels you are for the Ducati traction control, the Ducati wheelie control, the ABS, and other information as well. Now you have 3 modes to toggle between and other settings to play with in the Hypermotard here. As I'll just show you, there is an urban mode, a touring mode, and a sport mode. So a pretty straightforward setup here, you know, nothing too overpowering or too confusing for a person who might be changing modes on the fly. And yes, it does that. You can change the modes of the motorcycle while riding. Now the Hypermotard gets both 17-inch alloy wheels here with the 180 by 55 Pirelli Diablo Rosso tire here at the rear, and the same but in a 120 by 70 section here on the front. Apart from that, you've got this monoshock at the back here. Now both the monoshock, as you can see here, and the front suspensions are manually adjustable to, you know, tune to your rider preference. The front units are from Marzocchi, and then you've got the dual disc 320mm Brembo braking setup at the front. So that was a first look, or you could say a walk around of the Ducati Hypermotard RVE. And one thing I forgot to mention is that this RVE is special because of this livery which comes in this particular variant. Apart from that, let us know in the comments what you thought about this Supermoto plus Street Naked Ergo Hypermotard in the comment section below. Like always, do remember to like, share and subscribe to our channel for more content.